Views on this program are opinions of dental industry experts and not necessarily those of dentist advisors. Opinions shared in the following interview do not constitute personal financial advice. This program is furnished by Dentist Advisors, a registered investment advisor. This is Dentist Money. Now, here's your host, Reese Harper.
Welcome to the Dentist Money Show. I'm your host, Reese Harper, with a good friend of mine, Mr. Seth Dahle of My Social Practice, which is a digital marketing agency that I've been trying to get in for an interview for a while now. They specialize in working with dentists all over the country, and strangely enough, before the show, I was surprised to learn they work with dentists all over the world, actually. Seth, how you doing today, man?
Good, thank you, Reese. Thanks for having me here today.
So this really is it's a global company as of recently, or you guys have had clients outside of the U.S. For a long time? I didn't know that, man.
Yeah, thanks to the internet and thanks to social media, we have clients in New Zealand and Australia and England and
that's so cool,
South Africa and other places like that.
That is crazy. That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about your background, Seth, and how you got into marketing and how you got into dentistry and what My Social Practice is all about.
Great. So I've actually been in dentistry now for over 10 years. In 2006, I worked for a dental marketing company for a few years, and then in 2009, kind of left out on my own and started My Social Practice with a couple other partners. And so I've had the chance to, speak all around the United States. I've also been able to attend many of the big shows and meet lots of people in the industry, and I never thought I'd be here with dentists 10 years later.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. When you grew up, did you tell yourself that you wanted to do that? Grow up one day and play professional basketball or work with dentists as a digital marketing agency?
I never thought I'd be, working with dentists at all. I mean, my only dental experience before, 10 years ago was getting my two front teeth knocked out in a basketball game.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Seth is a beast of an athlete. He played college basketball, and he beats me up the mountain on his mountain bike a lot. So been fun to chase along.
You're too kind.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, is there anything else about your background that you want to share that I didn't?
My Social Practice. So we've been working with dental offices for just over 6 years now. And we have two kind of different things that we really focus on. Specifically, one is social media marketing and the other is reputation management. The main goal of what we do is to help dental offices better market their practices through social media, which we feel like is just an extension of their internal marketing. And so I know a lot of dental offices really like to drive new patients in their office through word-of-mouth referrals and getting new patients in from providing great service. And this is just an extension of what they're already doing in their offices. So
tell me a little bit about, before the show you were mentioning to me how all marketing is heading digital. What do you mean by that? And how would you kind of describe that from a dentist perspective? Because a lot of dentists are spending a lot of money in things that aren't digital, right? And how do you kind of view the world? I'm just curious on how things are evolving.
Yeah, so I would imagine that most of you in the past have participated with some form of marketing, whether in the past it was yellow page ads or even a billboard. You could have done direct mail. Some people might have kind of dabbled in radio, television. But what's happening is there's been a big shift in marketing, and everything is moving towards digital. And so somebody may see a direct mail piece, which are still effective in some areas, come to their mailbox. But one of the first things they're going to do is they're going to look at that mail piece, and if they're interested, they're going to pull out their phone or get on their laptop, and they're going to Google your name or look at your website. And then from that point, it becomes digital. It could be them, then looking at your reviews on Google or Yelp. It could be them, visiting your social media accounts to see what's going on in the practice. And so no matter how somebody finds you, even if your patient's friends refers your practice to another friend, most likely they're going to probably go online and they're going to want to learn more about you and see what other people have to say about you.
Totally. Yeah, that's true. So what about when I guess I'm not that in tune with dental marketing as you are, but when I look at it, I kind of feel like it's all generic, and I don't know how dentists differentiate, right? I don't know how, I look at one dental website and I'm like, it's some generic pictures of some stock photography of a happy family and smiling teeth, and then I don't even see the doctor for 3 pages. He's buried back in the about or contact us section with a paragraph, and about his background that no one's like really gonna be. I mean, how is that effective, or is it just seems to me like it's all this generic stuff that doesn't really?
Well, if speaking specifically about websites, think about a website as like an online brochure.
Okay.
So then the question is, how do you market an online brochure? 10, 15, 20 years ago, you handed out your brochure to all of your friends and you hope that they pass it on to their friends. Now it's sitting out on Google and you're hoping someone finds it. And so the way people market the online brochure is either through pay-per-click ads or doing some form of SEO or search engine optimization. What like social media marketing allows you guys to do is basically show the practice culture, show who you guys
show
really
that it's
are.
real, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
you
you're real
get past
people. And
you get past the suit, the tie, and the perfect picture, and you move to see like what's going on a day-to-day basis and who these people really are that run the practice.
yeah, to me that would be like if I'm trying to make a decision as a new patient where I'm going to go. I mean, I just want to see more than just some stock photography and kind of a generic stale image, and social media seems to be a great way to accomplish that, right?
Yeah, it comes directly back to participation. You guys are in a relationship business. You're not in the teeth business. The reason people refer you is because they like you.
Yeah.
Assuming that you have good work. And so people get caught up in that when they should be caught up in relationships, and relationships are what drives new patients into your practice.
So you guys work a lot on the social media side and on reputation management. How does reputation management get negatively or positively affected today? Why should someone be concerned about that?
Yeah, good question. So when we speak about reputation management specifically, we're talking about like reviews online. There's literally hundreds and thousands of places that somebody could leave a review online. And they can do it solicited or unsolicited. Anybody could go to Google, or they could go to Facebook or Yelp or Super Pages or Bing or Yahoo and leave a review about the experience that they had at your office. And for reviews, specifically, speaking about Google, it's the biggest search engine. Most people use Google. And in fact, there's a local kind of online expert called Moz Local that talks about the value of reviews. And it's actually an important part of you ranking locally so more people can find you guys online when searching for a dental-related service in your area. Secondly, there's a lot of studies coming out that are just basically say that people care what other people say. They'll actually believe someone they don't even know from a review online more than they'll believe your own website.
Yeah.
And if the review's older than 3 months, 75% of the population will discount it because it has to be new. And then finally, if your patients refer you, or let's say you're in insurance, you take some insurance in your office and people are looking up your name and they see you along with the 3 or 4 other competitors in the same area, one of the first things people do is they pull out their phone or they go to their computer and they Google your name, and they'll see what other people have to say about you. And so if you don't have a strong online reputation, then you could be losing patients.
Yeah, and it's definitely, I mean, I think in the past, I don't know that there was that much of a decision-making process involved in that involved Google search or referrals were happening more than they even might happen today. I mean, it seemed like 30 years ago, you probably did build a practice through ground roots kind of reputation and people talking to their friends about you, which still happens. But I mean, a lot of people today they discount that process a little bit and honestly go to see what your reputation is online, and that could be a huge gap in the visibility people have about you if that's not transparent, I guess.
And I think what's happening is it's just growing, or it's different. Word of mouth marketing still is around. I mean, that's how most practices want to build their patient base, is through referrals. It's just happening a different way. It's not happening at a sporting event or a civic event or a church event. It's happening online. It's happening, over Facebook. It's happening, on Instagram. It's happening by people reading reviews from what your other happy patients have to say about the practice.
Yeah. So let's go down a different route real quick. What do you think some of the biggest mistakes dentists make when are in their marketing generally, in their digital marketing?
Yeah. So I think the first one, and we've kind of been just briefly talking about this already, but I think one of the biggest mistakes is that dentists are completely unaware of their online reputation, or they don't know it's out there, or they don't care about it, or they don't put any effort into it.
Or discount the value that it might have.
Correct. Like,
Yeah.
for example, I mean, the Google Plus page that's tied to your Google local listing or your Google business page, they've been around for about 8 years now. But every single day I'll see dentists that only have 3 reviews or 5 reviews or 2 reviews. I mean, that's less than, one a year. If you really want to establish yourself online, but also establish yourself as someone that people want to come to your office, that's a great place to start.
How many, what's a number where I've got a meaningful number of reviews? Like, how many reviews is meaningful to the average consumer?
Yeah, I would say it's kind of different in the area. In some of the areas, like, let's say, Chicago, Seattle, New York, where it's a little bit more mainstream, I'd say in the hundreds would be something that's important. But really, what I would do is I would just do a search, city and dentist or city and cosmetic dentist or whatever you want to do, and see what the competitors are doing out there. And that kind of gives you a baseline. If there's somebody that has 150 reviews and you guys only have 5 or 6, the baselines should be up near, over 100 reviews to get closer to what the competition's doing. In some areas, it might only be, 10, 15, 20, or 30 reviews. That all the reviews are beneficial to you. You don't have to get a review from everybody. You guys already know who your favorite patients are that love you, and so just start there.
That's good. That's great advice. So what's another mistake you see people make besides being unaware of their online reputation?
I think the second biggest mistake that I see is that dental offices just want to buy marketing. They don't want to participate in marketing.
Okay.
So they're willing to write a check, but when it comes to participation, they either, I guess the offices that really get it and kill it and get lots of new patients and are growing and thriving are part of the marketing efforts, and the ones that seem to always be struggling, just want to pay money for someone to do it and don't want to actually have to participate at all. And marketing's a big. It's from the front end acquisition all the way to that first visit. There's 15 or 20 different touch points that you guys you need to be aware of.
Yeah, we have that problem in our business as well, where people just want to pay us to fix all of the problems, but they don't want to participate in that. Often we get the question like, well, do I have to respond to emails, or do I have to talk to anyone, or can you guys just make me wealthy and figure it out? And I think I think it comes from dentists, they're so busy. They have they're being pulled in so many different directions. It can be hard to dedicate time to anything and engage their team in doing anything, because they feel like they're just running around and spread thin all the time. But it really does. A lot of things in business management require of dedicating time and leadership and team building. And, you don't just get to write a check for the best outcomes. The best outcomes require participation,
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Practices that participate and get it do a lot. They grow a lot quicker and see the results.
Can't just write a check. That's number 2.
There's your second one. Do not just write a check and hope it works.
How do you think people do at measuring the results of the checks they do write and the participation they do get involved in? How do you think people are at tracking and measuring results? And how is that?
Yeah. Well, I think with any type of marketing, regardless of what you guys have done in the past, it could even been a phone book ad you ran 10 years ago. It's always important to track results. There's just because it doesn't work for you doesn't mean it doesn't work for somebody else. There's some areas that in today, 2016, people are still running phone book ads and they're still getting a result on it.
Yeah.
Whereas some people try lots of different types of marketing that have worked or haven't worked, like direct mail, or maybe they've run radio or TV ads. I guess the important thing is you have to identify. I guess you have to start by already tracking. A lot of people will ask those questions like, what's my ROI? Or, how much money am I going to make back? But they don't, they just ask that because they've been trained to ask that.
Yeah.
But they don't really have a baseline, meaning like, well, what's the lifetime value of your patient? What does it cost to acquire a patient? Other questions that kind of come into play that they have to have the the data and the information before you can actually start measuring other things.
Do you think that's important? I mean, from my perspective, I look at knowing those costs, the cost of customer acquisition, that like some of those factors are so important, but I feel like they're pretty foreign concepts to a lot of business owners, not just dentists, but dentists in particular don't seem to have a good handle on what their budget should be for marketing, and then what the cost of obtaining a new patient is, and they're not dedicating resources to that in a proactive way.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's another one of those things that takes time, effort, and energy, and it can easily be pushed to the background. Probably the easiest way that I hear dentists kind of think about it is, is my practice growing? Is my practice kind of leveling out, or is there a decline? And basically, one thing to look at is attrition, because if they're growing, it means that your new patients are coming in faster than you're losing attrition, or people walking out the back door. If it's the same, then if you're bringing in 20 new patients a month on the front end, you're probably losing 20 patients a month on the back end. And if you're declining, then that's kind of how people, just from maybe a 10,000 foot view, kind of identify their business. But it does take some time, energy, and effort to actually dig down and get those numbers.
How does that vary from specialty to specialty? Because we have a lot of ortho, endo, OS, GP, pedo. Like, how would you look at maybe different specialties in terms of the numbers that they should be tracking? Besides, like, if I look at a general dentist, I'm thinking I want to look at my total number of maybe active patients, and you got to define that by maybe some range of time, like how many times, what's an active patient, I guess, from your perspective?
Yeah, and this probably really goes more towards like a practice consultant, but okay. I've heard anywhere between like 9 months to 18 months
is what you consider an active person.
Yeah, if they've come in once within that last
18
time.
18 is what I've heard is on the high side of probably what you should expect. So
usually a year is kind of.
So you measure your number of active patients, and that's someone who's come in for at least the last year or maybe up to 18 months. If you want to be generous to yourself, okay? They should be coming in every 6.
You want to pad the numbers,
right? and then you, if you kept track of that every year, like maybe just wrote that number down every year, and then you looked at the number of new patients you had, and compared that to the number of total active patients you had, you could start to kind of do some math, right?
Yeah.
Would that be a lot different for, like, would OS and perio just do like procedures, like number of procedures that they've done in a year, or how would you recommend they?
Yeah, and I would probably defer this to a practice consultant, but I know that like perio, for example, they have procedures and they usually hand the patient back to the general dentist. Sometimes they keep them.
Yeah, so she just might look at the procedure count, right? Yeah. How many procedures you've done, probably the same thing with endo, and measure it similar to a new patient, but. So what would ortho be the same way? Just patients in treatment, people that are currently in braces right now, just looking at that and then looking at the new ones.
Yeah, and I think this also ties directly into who are the practices marketing to? Are they marketing to the general public? Or are they marketing to other dental offices for referrals?
Yeah.
So
how many people do you think track those kind of numbers? Like if you had to say out of 10 dentists you meet, how many of them would actually be keeping track of those numbers?
I think probably 1 to 2 do it really, really well.
Okay.
And then I would say maybe a couple others try, but maybe do it ineffectively. But I would say half just don't
ignore it, or just not ignore it, but they don't try to even capture the data.
They don't know it offhand, or they don't know what to do with the data, so they stop tracking it, or they just say, "Well, I know someone knows how to find it in my software."
Yeah.
And other than that, they don't really have an up-to-date idea with what's happening.
How many dentists do you think know how to find it in their own software? Like the actual dentist, if you had to guess, out of 10 dentists, if you've met, like people that are familiar enough with their own software to go find those numbers?
I would have to bet one.
Yeah, that's what I would have guessed.
Yeah,
it just seems like a big thing to not know, I guess, for something that's so important to the longevity of your personal wealth, your personal net worth, like your retirement. Everything's based on the direction of your collections and the count of your active patients and new patients. And those things are kind of like your main metrics of like health, right? And a lot of people aren't very familiar with those numbers.
Yeah, it's definitely the practices that we see that are thriving and growing and really, doing a great job know the numbers.
Yeah.
The ones, there's people that can do it without knowing the numbers. They just, I don't know if you want to call it luck, or they're just in a great area.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's probably something you should really know if you want to grow in the way you want.
What are some tips that you could kind of give people that, regardless of who they work with or who they're hiring, what kind of advice you might leave with people on tips they can take away and kind of implement?
I think number one is that, marketing is not an exact science. And so you may try things that just don't get results, but you can learn from them and do something else. A lot of people feel like because one form of marketing wasn't successful, that no marketing is successful.
Yeah.
And they don't realize all the different variables that came into play to make it successful. I mean, it could have been an effective marketing campaign, but the people that picked up the phone could have been ineffective and it could have ruined the campaign. Or vice versa, you could have had great people trained and ready to go and it just didn't work. So I think it's really important to kind of identify, the money spent and try to create some type of results and, learn from it, and don't maybe make the same mistakes twice, or don't just do it because you've always been doing it.
I get that all the time where people tell me, I tried this and it didn't work, but I get the sense that they tried something for like 60 days to 90 days. Yeah,
I think that's a great point. A lot of forms of marketing take a while to accomplish it. I heard a statistic one time that said that the average patient needs to come into the office somewhere between 6 to 10 times before they're willing to refer a friend or family member.
Wow.
Because they need to create that trust.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's 6 to 10 times and they're coming twice a year, that's 3 to 5 years. And that's that you have to create a great experience for them to refer you to the practice. And so, that's kind of an example. But on the flip side, if you guys are trying to do like a direct mail campaign and you run it for 3 months and then pull the plug, or you're trying to do a social media campaign and you post every day for 60 days and then you stop doing things. I mean, you need longevity and people need to know you're going to be there and you have to participate.
Yeah, I think that's essential. Any other thoughts or tips that you'd say, besides this one of maybe persistence? You said, it's making sure you implement a strategy and review it, see what works, and make adjustments. Kind of like don't give up on marketing is kind of the first thought that I kind of took away from that. What's another kind of concept maybe that you want to leave with people? And
this is, I think I touched on this earlier, but maybe just to bring it back, is just the participation part. You guys, or the dentist, you're in a relationship business, and people refer you because they like you. So, participate.
Yeah.
Get involved. Don't try to just write a check and forget about it. Get involved. There's lots of things you guys could be doing, especially in your office. I mean, dentists or dental offices have a unique business where they have a patient come in their office, hopefully at least twice a year or more, depending on the specialty. You have a captive audience. They're not going anywhere. They're sitting in your chair for at least an hour. There's lots of different things you guys could be doing with that patient while they're there to help you market your practice. But too many people let the patient come and leave without even thinking about it.
It's great insight, man. It's been a good interview. A lot of great takeaways. I think some of these are things that I see happening consistently with our clients and things we'd like to see have improved. So great interview, and I really appreciate you coming and dedicating some time to this. I know you're really busy, and we appreciate you making the effort. So thanks.
Thank you. See you on the trails.
Yep, we'll do it, man.